The week that I was supposed to start, I had a drinking and driving charge, and I called up InSchool and our debt managers and I said, "Hey guys, just FYI, I can't drive, and I gotta be on curfew with one of those Rolex bracelets on the old ankle." And we sort of didn't go any further. As I was like writing it back in my mind, I remember seeing two people on the phones. So I called Mark up and I said, "Hey, look, have I got a deal for you? Is there a chance that I can be on the phone?" And then he got in touch and said, "You know what? We believe in second and third chances, so we would like to give you this opportunity to come through." And so I started on the phones, and I'm still there, man. Wow. So kind of like the rest is history. Over the years, I've had conversations with customers over the phone, and they're like, "I can't really do much. I'm on the Benny. I'm on Home Deed, and have I got a story for you?" As a matter of fact, I know exactly what it's like. And then like that, it opens it up,
Why do you think our Pacifica find it difficult to communicate?
We only speak when we're spoken to, as we've been told. We're taught not to question anything if it's not in line with what we believe in. It's because that's just how it is. And as a result of that, we limit who we communicate with, when we communicate, and how. We almost got to change the fabric, of our culture.
If there's a family out there who's listening, drowning in debt, what would the key steps be for them?
So what I would suggest is,
welcome to Fresh Money. Just a quick note, this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. If you need financial advice, please make sure you contact a financial advisor to get professional advice. Or get in touch and we can point you in the right direction. The Fresh Money podcast is proudly sponsored by the Booster Foundation. They're supporting Fresh Money so we can keep having honest tala noa about money, building confidence, and helping our people create stronger financial futures. Talofa lava, I'm Willie Liota, the host of Fresh Money. This is the podcast where we talk about all things money, whether it be your personal finance, business, or your career. If it involves money, we'll talk about it. The whole goal of this is to break the taboo on money and give you a bit of an insight on how you can be better with it yourself. So today, you have a treat. We have Chris Fifita from Debt Managers. So if the debt collector's after you, don't worry, we've got Chris. He's going to help you. Chris, welcome to Fresh Money, man.
Hey, look, Willie, thank you very much for having me. It's a privilege, and what you're doing for the people, our people, the wider community in Aotearoa. I'm behind it, and so again, it's a privilege. Thanks for having me here.
Awesome. No,
excuse the nerves.
You're good, bro. You're good.
Excuse the nerves, but ready to go.
I was actually talking with another guest who just finished, and we were just saying, hey, we always get nervous. Yeah. I always get nervous still, but it's a good thing because, we care about what we say and what we're doing to help our, people. So,
no, 100%, and you're cool. Right. Like there's, there's a lot of responsibility around that, and I think the nerves is a healthy thing. Yeah,
for sure. Cool, man. For those who don't know, can you explain to me what Debt Managers is and what you do there?
Yeah, sure. So Debt Managers, so we're a debt collection agency essentially. So we fall into the finance industry. So the way I look at debt collection within the finance ecosystem is we're the accountability portion of that sector. Okay. So within the debt collection sort of function within the ecosystem, there's two types. Yep. So you've got your debt collection agency, sort of traditional model where the organization will collect on behalf of their clients. For example, if I was a DCA, you might...
What's a DCA, sorry?
A debt collection agency.
Oh, yep.
So you might approach me and you might go, "Hey, Chris, got some people that owe me money. Can you please help me to get it sorted?"
I see.
And then what I'll do then is I'll go, "Okay, cool. Willie, what I'll do is I'll collect it, but you still own the debt. And then within whatever time frame we agree on."
So a debt collection agency, they can be like a business or...
So
they're just trying to get the debt that's owed to them back.
Yeah.
And they can't do it or don't
Yeah.
have time to do
Yeah,
it,
that's
and they
right.
come to you
Yeah, that's right.
and employ you to go and get it. Is
That's
that
right.
right?
Yeah, on their behalf. That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah. So
I see, I see.
one sort of segment,
Gotcha.
and the other is purchase debt ledger. So that's where debt managers and I fall into.
Yep.
So the difference is we actually acquire the debt.
Okay.
Or purchase the debt, and then what happened there is the legal term for it is it's assignment. So the accounts are assigned to our organisation, but with that comes a lot of responsibility.
Okay.
So we take on the role of the new creditor essentially,
Yep.
And the original creditor doesn't really have much to do with it anymore.
I see.
So
you've debt managers has bought that debt that
right.
company is owed.
Yes.
And so it becomes now your debt.
That's right.
And you go and get the money.
That's right.
And
we take on full responsibility.
Cool.
Right. So whatever the original agreement that the customer entered into, we're now sort of obligated under that. And then we've got sort of triple CFA obligations if there's
that's the
sort of finance,
credit contract finance act.
Yep. Yeah. So there's around there. So there's quite a lot of responsibility.
Yep.
So that's where we fall into in terms of the debt collection segments. But so with us at debt managers, we believe our mission is to create a fair financial world where everyone thrives.
Yep.
Right. So what does that mean? What does that look like? So it's all nice and good me saying that, but I'll break it down. So our initial offering to the market is we don't charge any collection costs, no fees or excessive interest. Right. So and
is that quite different to other collection places?
Yeah, so there's quite a few sort of other organisations within our space who still practice that model where they charge fees and collection costs and other sort of
which means the debt can go up.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. That's correct. But if we go back one, right? So let's think about what happened to the debt prior to it being assigned to us, right?
Yep.
So, for example, someone might have gone in to get credit.
So example, use me. I go and get credit.
Yeah. So Willie goes and get credit.
Yep.
He's eligible as per the criteria. He's then given the credit that he he applied for.
I got the loan.
You got
whatever.
the loan. Yeah, you got the loan or phone or whatever the case may be. And then let's say at the time you were working full time. Everything was good. You were able to manage the payments. You were all good. And then life circumstance happens. Whatever that might be. And you find yourself very quickly unemployed. You find yourself maybe getting assistance from the government, whether that's through inland revenue or through MSD. So all of a sudden, your financial profile or the way you manage your finances changes, right? Your budget changes. So you're like, oh no, like I've got this loan that I took out. I'm not able to facilitate that.
I can't afford it anymore.
Yeah, that's right. And then it could go through internal process.
Oh, yep. So I'm talking with
that's
people going, I can't pay it, and they go, how much can you pay? Type thing. Or
that's it. Yeah, that's right.
Maybe,
yeah. So you get into negotiations based on your situation.
Okay.
And then maybe you decide, I might just go under for a bit.
Yeah.
Because life's pressures
is
overwhelming.
Can't pay it, I just can't.
Life's pressures overwhelming. You can't pay a cent, and then they try to get a hold of you, perhaps, and then
I'm stressed out. I'm just ignore those phone calls.
That's it. That's
those emails.
So much pressure, because it might not just be the one that you got owed to me.
Yes.
It could be to Sally and John and whoever else. So there's a lot going on in your life. So you decide to bury your head in the sand. Unfortunately, right? So they try to get a hold of you, and then it'll get to a point where they decide that company will decide, we've tried to help this person. It hasn't gone anywhere. However, they're still obligated to pay this money.
Yeah, because I signed that contract
to
say I'm going to give you the money back.
Yeah, that's right.
In payments or whatever.
And it's fair. Right, and it's fair not only to the organisation you got the credit from, but society or the economy at large, right?
Yep.
And then from there, it might go through, to say a DCA, for example.
Yep.
They collect it on behalf of the original creditor. They're unsuccessful because you're still burying your head in the sand.
Yep.
And then that might go out for tender, and then we acquire the debt.
Oh, okay.
And that's how it ends up
So
with
my
us.
debt has gone from the original place to the DCA, and then
to debt managers. Right, that's correct.
Yep.
Yeah, so it gets through to us, and we go. So we already understand our customers' dynamics. All right, so it could be life sort of situation.
Yep.
So what we do is we cater to that. Right, so the communication is soft. Right, so we meet our initial obligation by sort of advising them or letting them know that the debt has been assigned to us. And then the next thing we do is we assess vulnerability. So that's a very important part before we even start collecting any debt.
Wow.
Right.
Yep.
So what we have our in-house financial mentor.
Okay.
So she's been a financial mentor for about 8 years.
Wow.
I know. A debt collection company with their own financial mentor, it's unheard of.
I was going to say, that's not normal, isn't it?
No, not at all.
I'd be expecting just a knock on the door.
Yeah, that's
Willie,
it. Yeah.
open the door.
Willie, I'm going to take your car. Where's the TV? Is this
true,
yours? Yeah,
true.
So, and those are things that we take into account and understand about our customers, right?
Yeah.
And so from there,
that's cool.
So that's why we've decided as an organisation, if our customers are already in dire situations or circumstances, is it fair to charge fees? Is it fair to charge collection costs? Right? Is it fair to charge interest, high interest, or what they might have been charged prior? No, it's no collection costs, no fees, and no excessive interest.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
because you're not making my bad situation worse.
That's right. Yeah.
By putting more fees on, more interest, and my loan that I owed originally to that thing is actually going up.
That's it.
But no longer.
Yeah. So when it gets when it gets to us, there's a freeze, right? And what we do is we do our very best to get a hold of you. But before we try and get a hold of you, or before the collection process starts, as I mentioned, we assess vulnerability and potential hardship.
Cool.
So typically, what we'll do is we'll send out communication and say, "Hey, Willie, your XYZ debt has now been assigned to debt managers.
Yep.
We understand that life, there might be a few issues that as to why it's landed on our doorstep. Here's a free well-being check for you to do, and from there, if you choose to participate, then it's through a platform called Tell Joe. So UK-based platform, and the reason why we went with that platform is because it's used throughout a lot of organisations in the UK, and the standards over in the UK around vulnerability and hardship are quite high.
Yeah,
so we wanted to benchmark. Let's meet it there, even though we don't have to as an organisation, but why not?
Yeah.
And then so it goes through to the customer, and then there's don't quote me on this, Willie, but there's about 63 or 65 potential vulnerabilities. So sometimes the customer may not even know, that's affecting them. And so from there, we remove those.
What's an example of a vulnerability?
Oh, like it could be, they have a child that's maybe hearing impaired or something, and they might not consider that as a vulnerability.
I see.
But through that free well-being check, we identify that, and then they identify that at the same time. Or it could be something as simple as not having access to your meter. Because you can't get an accurate reading, so your bills are always going to be high based on the current system as they predict it for you. So you know what I mean. So that could be a vulnerability.
Because then they can forecast too high.
That's right.
Like, I actually don't use that much.
And that household has only planned for XYZ, but the forecast is here. So things like that. And then from there, those who participate, we remove them from the collection process.
Okay.
And then they go to our wellness and vulnerability department.
Wow.
Wellness and vulnerability department will get in touch and say, hey, look, thank you very much for participating. Here's a few solutions or potential outcomes for you. So, based on your your well-being check, we might look at putting your debt on hold, no repayments, no interest, no collection costs, no fees for 6 months or 3 months or 12 months, just to give you a better time to get on your feet.
Bit of a breather.
A bit of a breather.
Get back into it
100%.
and then start
100%.
on that a bit later.
Or if we identify economic harm,
Yep.
so as a result of domestic violence,
Wow.
typically those debts are automatically closed off through our debt relief program, where we think it's not fair to even take a cent from that person.
Wow.
Right, so we'll just write the debt off.
Debt relief program.
Our debt relief program. So that was started by the company, a few years back now, just for situations like that.
Yeah.
Or for people they've tried, they've gone to this financial mentor, they've gone to that financial mentor, and they're not able to sort of, get out of it,
Yep.
and if we can alleviate or release some of that pressure from that particular family or household,
Yep.
then that's one less thing they got to worry about. So
true.
and then from there it goes through. And then those who don't participate, then they typically go through the collection process.
Yep.
So would you like me to get into that as well? Or?
Sure, man.
Yeah. So
because that's the place where a lot of our Pacifica people are.
That's right. And that's a good point. I mean, like those who are listening, if you're ever given an opportunity to have a vulnerability assessment or a free wellbeing check with an organisation that you might have debt to,
Yep.
I encourage them to strongly take it on board. Don't be don't be whakamā, don't be shy about sharing about what's happening in your life, because there's options out there that they could give you, and if it's with us, debt relief could be one of them. Putting the debt on hold could be one of them, or it could look like a small payment plan. So depending on the vulnerability, because we also got to understand that not everybody doesn't want to pay. We
True. Because you can only try your best with a mentor and a coach.
That's it.
But there's only so much you can do on their side. It is like when the loan started, right from the very beginning.
Yep.
There is responsibilities on both sides.
Exactly.
You took the loan on based on this agreement that you were going to pay it back.
Yes. And rather than burying your head in the sand, communicate. And I know it's hard, in general, because I mean, debt is, when you say debt, everyone's like, and I mean, also one thing we should never forget, it's a debt-based economy, and when you fall 100%. Fall into a dire situation or circumstance, it's okay to reach out, it's okay to share that, because you don't know what help's available, and there is, not necessarily from us. It could be from the original creditor. It could be from the DCA. It could be from whomever. Yep. But the key there, and I know it's a bit cliche, but communication. Yeah. Right? It really is. So and
it sounds almost too simple, way.
Well, that's the thing. We've been taught that if it's too good to be true, then it is. But in some cases, it's not. So
you're right.
I mean, most people have mobile phones, they have access to the internet.
Yep.
Do a quick Google of that company. And you'll quickly find out. What they're about and the ethos and ways they can help you. So
that's awesome.
No, thank you for that. I'm privileged, man. I'm privileged to be a part of an organisation that allows me to help not only Pacifica, but the wider Aotearoa community as well. All shapes, sizes, black, yellow, green, wherever you're from. I'm in a unique position where I can help people directly. Through managing their debt, and obviously the vehicle is debt managers. That I'm in.
Man, how did you get into this space?
Oh man, that's a story on its own. So what happened? Okay, so I'll start at the beginning. Cool. So what happened was, I was going through a bit of a rough patch in my life, sort of down and out, and at the time I was getting assistance from WINS, and I think at the time it was, the Prime Minister was probably John Key. So shout out John Key, thanks for the help, appreciate it. And I was looking for jobs, right? So looking for jobs, and I come across this one, and I was like, "What? Like, really?" So, but the thing is, on the ad, it didn't have the the company that I was applying for.
Okay.
All it said was it was through a recruitment agency, debt collection company, XYZ. You get the opportunity to help the people and, do it in a socially responsible way. And I was like, oh, that sounds a bit of me. Because I've always known from a young age that I want to help people. And I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity. So I went through the process, got in touch with the recruitment agency, had an interview, and then a week later I was told that that I didn't make the cut. I was like,
true.
yeah. So I was like, oh, that's all right. Like, no dramas. That's cool. So I kept looking, and then the ad popped up again. And I was like, what? I thought the position had been filled. So I was like, they might be looking for another person. So I was like, I've been rejected from the recruitment agency. How can I sort of get a hold of this company that I want to work for? Yeah. So what I decided to do really was I just sent my CV to, I went on Google, Googled debt collection company in Auckland, and I sent my CV to every single one.
True.
Yeah, so I said, I sent my CV to every single one.
Yeah.
And then the first one that got back to me was debt managers or Intercol at the time. So the current executive general manager, his name is Mark. He reached out. He's like, hey mate, come on through. Like, be interested to have a conversation with you. And then I can't remember exactly whether it was the same day or the day after. He called me again. He said, we've been in contact. I've forwarded your CV to a recruitment agency. Apparently you've already gone through the process. And I was like, yeah. Then he goes, just go through it again. So I went through it again and then made it to the final interview. So with the current owner of the company at the time, the GM, Mark, and a few other people. So I went through, had the interview, and thank God I got the job. But that's awesome. But what happened was the week that I was supposed to start, I had a drinking and driving charge, so I got sentenced. So the initial role that I applied, the initial role that I applied for was supposed to be a community agent. So going helping people in person with their debts and then working out solutions in person. And I called up Intercol and our debt managers, and I said, hey guys, just FYI, as a result, the penalty for me is I can't drive, I can't get a work license, and I gotta be on curfew with one of those Rolex bracelets on the old ankle, for 12 months, and mate. So that's what happened.
That's crazy.
I know, that's what happened, and then obviously, they weren't too happy. They weren't too happy about the situation. I mean, at the time it was a lot smaller company. They must have spent, I don't like a substantial amount of money to buy me a car, all the equipment and stuff that I needed. Training, the whole lot prepped for me, only for me to call up and say that. So they weren't too happy about that, as you can imagine. And, needless to say, we sort of didn't go any further because of the situation. I mean, I wasn't able to drive. I wasn't, I went on curfew and all
part
that.
of the role.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And then, I was like so gutted, I was like down and out, man. I was like, what? Like, one, I really wanted to work for the company. Two, it really aligned with my own principles. And three was a great opportunity, right? And then, so sort of like in bed, down and out, or like really, really sad and stuff. And then I about a week or two later, I thought to myself, I was like, just sort of ran through the interview and how it all worked, and then as I was like running it back in my mind, I remember seeing two people on the phones, and then I thought to myself, why not give them a call, see if that can happen? So I called Mark up and I said, hey, look, have I got a deal for you?
No way.
I did, man. I was persistent.
No way.
And he's like, what is it now, man? You can't drive, you can't meet the role, there's nothing much we can do. I said, I called him back about 2 weeks after that. I said, look, I remember walking out and I saw two people on the phones. Is there a chance that I can be on the phone? I'll work out, I'll work out how to get from South Auckland, Minnerewa to Avondale. Like, don't worry about that. I'll make sure that I'll be there on time. But if you can just give me this opportunity, I'll be grateful. And he sort of said he'll think about it. And then he got in touch and said, you know what, we believe in, this is what he said, we believe in second and third chances, maybe four chances. So we would like to give you this opportunity to come through. So that to come through and be a phone agent for the 12 months that you're on sort of curfew until you're in a position to go back on the road. And so I started on the phones, and I've still there, man.
Wow.
So kind of like the rest is history. So that's how I got in.
That is crazy.
I know, man. I know.
That does not happen.
I know
at all.
I know. Like I'm like look at how it all unfolded.
Wow.
You know. So I mean, like, that's a blessing.
That is.
Yeah, that's a blessing, and
Yeah.
that's and I quite often think about how I got there, and the journey to get there further solidifies that I'm supposed to be there.
100%.
That I'm supposed to be there, helping our people, helping the community, helping Aotearoa through this vehicle, through debt managers, and they've given me the opportunity, and I'm grateful. So shout out debt managers. Thank you for the opportunity.
Cool. That's
man.
That's
So
amazing.
Yeah,
man.
that's how I got there. So
when do you get the guy calling him and you've got a Rolex on your ankle?
Yeah, man. Like, so yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
That's crazy.
So
man.
I mean, I would talk. Over the years, I've had conversations with customers over the phone, and they're like, bro, I can't really do much. I'm on the Benny. I'm on Home D. Have I got a story for you? As a matter of fact, I know exactly what it's like. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, give them a bit of a background.
Yeah.
They're like, what, really? And then like that opens it up, and
That's
a lot of my colleagues, they got stories like we all do, and the culture within the organization at Debt Managers is quite open, right? It's quite open, and we're not afraid to be vulnerable, and share that. And I think that's
awesome.
part of why we're able to, connect with our customer base very, very well. Yeah. So
how does that culture come about? Like, it sounds completely different from your typical collection company.
Yeah, well, I think it was already there when I got there. I think a testament to that is the fact that they gave me a chance. So they believed in second, third chances. I mean, if you look on the opposite side, that's kind of like what our customers are getting.
True.
Original creditor, maybe DCA, and then third chance with debt managers. Before it could escalate. So it was kind of like, it's not, they don't only apply that to their customers, but their own people, for example, myself, so, and I'm just one of many stories within the organization anyway, but that's how I got there, Willie. So,
man, awesome. Well done, man. And well done for you for persevering as well.
No, thank you.
Because you still had to make the phone call back.
That's it. Yeah.
And there would have been a whole heap of embarrassment.
Oh, man,
like you were ready to turn up, and then that happened, and then they say no, but you go back.
Yeah, man. Just picture it. I'm in my bed sulking, and like having to get on the phone and actually ask for something, and the unknown. Yeah, I was a bit like scared to do it, but something inside me just said like, go ahead, just go ahead, listen to that voice, and I'm here doing cool stuff like this, talking to you. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah.
But I think that goes back to what you said before, like communicate.
Yeah, that's right.
That is obviously, that's a form of communication. Going back, being persistent.
Yeah, that's right.
And like, why do you think our Pacifica find it difficult to communicate? Yeah.
Well, there's a number of reasons. Like I think we find it difficult to communicate, and that's largely because of our upbringing. So we've been taught that, and it's a common value throughout all other sort of cultures, which is respect your elders, only speak if you're spoken to, so that's a bit of a subliminal chain, that one, speak when you're spoken to, don't like be humble, and there's nothing wrong with being humble, and people in sort of, standing or positions within work or the community, we're kind of taught not to question anything they say, and just sort of go through. Right. And And what happens from a young age, that our subliminal minds registered that, so we don't get into a habit of questioning things, right? So our voice is dimmed.
Yep.
Our internal voice is dimmed from a young age.
Yes.
As people, it could be true of other cultures too. And from there, we only speak when we're spoken to, as we've been told.
Yes.
We're taught not to question anything if it's maybe out of line or not in line with what we believe in. It's because that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, we limit who we communicate with, when we communicate, and how. So that's one factor. Yeah, that's one factor.
Wow.
And if you bring in, so that's sort of, and those values, if you want to call it that we're taught when we're brought up. There's a few branches of that. So you've got traditional obligation that ties into that.
Yes.
So cultural, traditional obligations. We got, sort of church. Element, then we've got like how our country is set up. For example, in Tonga, you've got the people, and then you got the next stage, like your chiefs, and so on and so forth. So even our community is set up so that you don't question the chief, you don't question the pastor, So we're kind of like bogged down right from the get-go,
from different levels of hierarchy and authority.
That's it.
In different aspects of our lives.
Exactly, from a very young age, right? And I'm not making excuses, right? Because we have free will.
Yes.
We get to a point where we're old enough to come out of that mold, or if you want to call it that, and
make our own decisions about
right?
what's happening.
Yeah. But to start off with, that's a battle that we've got to conquer first before we can start, getting into, coming out of our mold and asking questions.
Because it's our go-to way. It's our default mode.
Setting. Oh, yeah, that's it, man. That's our default setting,
under and become humble or respect whatever authority it is.
That's
and
it.
go, you must be right, because that's just our way.
Yeah, because when I grew up, my dad said that's what you got to do. And in my house, and in most, sort of PI Pacifica households, dad's the be all and end all. You know, and even to this day, I mean, in my adult life, I mean, my parents still have a lot to say in my life, and not that I'm not saying they dictate how I live, or they influence major decisions in my life. They do to a certain extent, but we've gotten to a point now where I've used a voice and said, hey, mum and dad, this is kind of where I am. This is how it looks. This is how it works. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. And you can imagine, really, the first time I did that, I had to,
you must got a slap
I had to dodge the 1, 2, 3,
because he's like, the default isn't quite
like,
working.
Hey, it's not happening. Hey, my product is broken. What's going on?
I have to reset this.
I'm resetting, but it's not going anywhere. So I mean, like that, but that didn't happen overnight. And it's still happening to this day, where having to explain how things work, basically, and my perspective, and I'm not saying that's how everyone should do it. And I'm not saying that's the right approach, but the sooner you find your voice, the sooner you can start exercising it, and don't be afraid to ask questions, reach out, and communicate.
Because like a lot of our strengths are some of our biggest weaknesses in the Pacific, because one, respect and honor, like it is an honor culture. We just, if this is your space, I honor you.
That's
and,
right.
You're the man, But then it becomes our weakness as well.
That's a good shout. Because that's our strength, and also what holds us down at the same time, which is ironic.
I know, crazy. And then we're brought into this Western culture, like you said, it's a debt economy, which functions on money and finance and debt. That's right. And we've got to navigate what's that? Whereas we come from the islands and it's all, hey, we'll just go to the plantation, go to the sea, that's where we get our food.
That's right.
Don't save it for a rainy day.
That's right.
Because we don't have refrigeration.
That's it.
It'll go off.
That's it.
That saying here in the West, it's not a saying there.
It's not.
Because when it rains, you're like, oh, it's nice. It's nice. It cools down.
Yeah, mate, that's it. And we have kind of like a like a live in the moment sort of mentality, because like you said, there's no fridge, there's no no things, so
because
we've got to utilize it that
just,
day, make the most of it.
That's how you live life. It's in the day. You go and get it.
Yeah, and if you borrow money from someone back in the island, and there might be paperwork or contracts involved, but our culture, oh hey mate, like just letting you know, Willie, I've got some church obligations that's come through. This week's payment, next week, and maybe the week after. Yep. Yeah, that's all right. I'll drop off some fish and some yams or something, and that's kind of like what we're used to, and
it's more the barter system of trading goods for goods as opposed to money that we've earned or financed for other.
Just a quick break here, whānau. Over the past 2 years running Fresh Money, we've heard again and again that buying your first home can feel really tough. But we've helped so many Pacifica families get there. And if that's you, please get in touch. We'd love to help.
It really is. I think it's ingrained in our DNA, and to make some noticeable changes or some changes into how we're programmed, like we almost got to change the fabric of our culture. There's how do we do that? How's that done? I mean, it could look like, church leaders, community leaders, head of households, sort of coming together and agreeing a way forward. But like any other culture, there's always going to be, different opinions in the mix. But I think it's important to focus on that common goal. Because if it's coming from people that we respect, especially sort of like, again, don't come for me on this, but our church obligations, if it's coming from that side of it, it makes it a lot easier. Because with most households, everything before we get into anything, whether it's a meal, a meeting, or whatever, it's prayer first. And we're almost told to sort of replicate like the pastor, or so things like that. But I mean, we're a way away, but that doesn't mean we can't start. Shout out to you, Willie, for starting. Because you're creating awareness right now through the podcast, and so. Thank you.
I think you're right there. I think the church is responsible for a lot of amazing things, right?
I agree.
And then but nothing is perfect.
No.
And so there are mistakes, but mistakes are fine as long as we learn from them, so we can get better, so our people can thrive.
I agree 100%.
And part of those mistakes are people giving to churches beyond their means.
That's right.
Getting loans. Getting loans to do that to save face or to look good in front of others, whereas that's actually not the reason for the giving in the first place.
Right. And you're 100% right. I mean, imagine if the culture was that, or the message from churches is that, look, we're not expecting you to do X, Y, Z, right? Imagine if they went a step further and they had like maybe a financial mentor involved in the process, assess the the customers or that family sort of household expenses, and say, okay, cool. You can only contribute this much. It's fed back to the pastor or the board of that church, and everyone has an understanding. Imagine if we had a system like that. So that way, it's an even playing field based on, like you said, your means, what you can do. So I'm not. I'm not saying it's the right way, and I'm not saying all people is bad people, because I mean, MMT, even though we lost in that game, but it's a big part of me, but it's more so from a place of improving the way we do things, our culture, and just managing money better. Managing money better, knowing where to seek help, knowing there's options, and and if we can change one person, 2 people, 3 people, it's still a win, because there's an impact on the next generation within that family as well. that's part of why I do what I do, because of that generational impact. So in the context of my work at Debt Managers, I'll give you an example. So there's quite a few times where
I was going to say, what do you do there?
So I'll be on the there's been a few times where I've had phone calls, and I'll call someone and go, oh, hey Willie, it's Chris here. How are you? And you'll go, oh, hey Chris, yeah, I'm good. Chris who? And I go, oh, it's Chris here from Debt Managers. As soon as I say where I'm from, unfortunately,
I'll be like,
so that could happen. But sometimes you have the younger kids. Their kids come on the phone. True. All of a sudden, I was talking to, say, maybe mum or dad, and then the younger children are given the phone and probably told in the background, like, that's what I'm imagining to happen, because what happens in the next second is, oh, hello, and I'm like, oh, can you put your dad back on the phone? And what I'm told is, oh, they're not here. They're not here. And I'm like, oh, I just spoke, but obviously I can't carry on the conversation because there could be a minor, and I don't know how old they are. But the thing that's happening there is, in that household, they're being taught how to approach debt or manage debt or approach people from my industry, from collections, right? So that's what they're learning.
Yeah,
right.
Wow.
So there's a heavy responsibility on us at Debt Managers, and I'll say the wider collection industry, to create a safe space, so that you can engage with the customer and actually find a solution, right? So just coming back to that example, if the kids learning how to deal with that, and when they get older, and then it was passed on from that generation to that generation, and everyone, because that's all they see. If someone comes around, close the door. If someone calls and they're from this unknown number or they're from this company, hang up the phone, say you're not here. It's bad behavior around debt. So that's if we can change that, that initial interaction, create a safe space. So to go, oh, Willie, actually, there's no collection costs, no excessive interest, no fees. Let's work something out that's suitable for you. And how I communicate and how we communicate is very important. To create the safe space, so we can, so we can change the behavior within that household. And I know it's a long shot and a bold statement, but the next generation within that household as to how they respond to that and how they treat it. So there's a mantle that we need that's on us, and also we need to take into account when we're considering creating that safe space. I mean, it's not always easy, and that's part of the reason why we don't sort of measure the length of a call or in-person interaction. Because if I was to say to one of my guys, your calls only have to be 7 minutes, how are they going to make a meaningful connection with someone in 7 minutes? So
so you're saying the length of the phone call,
or in-person interaction. We don't limit that. Because we understand that it takes really time to make a meaningful connection, to therefore find out exactly why our customers got into this point, and then from there provide a solution that's feasible, or for based on their circumstance. So
that's amazing. Because if you when you approach Pacifica, we like to mark time. It's a big thing for us. It's like we take time for a lot of important events.
Oh, that's a good point.
We take ages.
Have a yarn, have a cup of tea, catch up.
Traditionally, generationally, we mark time out to for important events. So that approach really works.
Yeah, man. And you need to make a meaningful connection. And in order to evoke change. Again, like I said, fortunate enough to be part of Debt Managers, and the higher management, they understand that. They understand it, and they give us the freedom to have those interactions. So
Man, I was going to say, what's your kind of view in terms of like you guys are doing amazing stuff of trying to connect with everyone, not just Pacifica. Should that approach, that kind of softer approach or more well-rounded approach, be kind of taken on board by everyone in the industry?
Well, that 100% agree. And we're funny you say that, because we're actually trying to make that a thing. Right, and what I mean by that is we've got a code of conduct that we put together. So that way, I mean, it's not legislation, but if we have a code of conduct for the debt collection industry and we put one together, everyone in our space can be held to the same standard, awesome. whether that's government collections, whether that's private, but we have a baseline that anyone can refer to and go, if I contact someone in the debt collection space, whether it be government or private, this is what I can expect. This is what I can expect. So we're in the final stages of our code of conduct, and looking at releasing that later on in the year.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so wow. I mean, I can touch base with you on that.
That'd be cool.
And see how it goes. But really want to hold the industry to the same standard, and sort of taking it upon ourselves to put the mahi in and put it all together. So,
man, that's awesome.
So a lot of exciting things happening. A lot of exciting things happening.
Really cool. If there's a family out there who's listening, they're drowning in debt, what would the key steps be for them to kind of approach their debt collector or to get out of that?
So what I would suggest is, one, give them a call, right, and then explain your circumstance, like from start to finish, right, and then from there they'll work out a solution. Now, if you don't want to make contact right away, what you can do is you can go contact your local financial mentor. Your local financial mentor will work out your budget, essentially.
Is that like just at a...
Yeah, so I mean, like, you've got Salvation Army, they have those facilities. You've got St. Vincent and Otahu. You've got there's a whole lot. There's CAPS. There's you can contact Money Talks. And Money Talks. What Money Talks will do is they'll put you in touch with someone in your local area. You can go on the debt manager's website. We've got on our website we've got a financial mentor map. So if let's say you live in Bluff, and we have a relationship with a financial mentor there, or the local financial mentor, then you can type it in and it'll let you know. And then from there, what they can do is they can represent you, and then sort of say, hey, look, contact you on behalf of Willie, just so you know this is a circumstance. He can only do $50 a week, or whatever the case may be. But I can't emphasize enough: contact, make communication, and explain your situation. Regardless of what stage it's at, they'll be able to provide some kind of help.
Man.
Or you can call me.
We'll have your details down below.
I can give you my dates, and if people want to reach out, they can reach out. I mean, I'm keen to do that.
Awesome. What are the common mistakes that people do when they just try and fix it fast?
Well, they agree to something that they can't commit to. Coming back to living outside of your means, right? Because there's that pride element, So rather than saying I can only do 20, they go, I can probably sort this out. And sorry, what's the balance again? 1,000. Okay, I want to sort it out as soon as possible. Let's do 100 a week. So and a lot of people rush in to commit to a higher amount, and then it falls over. And then they get the calls, say, hey, look, Willie, what's going on? And then, they might answer the first one, and then it falls over again, and then they might avoid the second call. Right, but all we're trying to do is get in touch to help and say, the contact might be, hey, look, Willie, that $100, was a bit too much. Can we look at a lower amount? But that's a common mistake that I see. Like, there's that overcommitment and living outside of means. But then, coming back to Pacifica, that's pride. Because it's debt, you're shy, you're and you don't want the person, like, you're already talking about a debt, and the last thing you want to do is leave an impression, with the person that you're talking to, that you can't afford it. You can't afford to make a high payment, So that we've got to get rid of that mentality, and hence why I said discuss your circumstances, because more often than not, someone may suggest a lower amount, and in our conversations, we do a lot of that. Like debt managers, we talk people down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we do.
Really?
Like, because I might...
You say you can afford this, but actually.
Yeah, like, because we like, I mean, although we have the right to request for, like, sort of bank statements, you know, to like, you know, get a payment arrangement in place, we work on a trust-based, non-evidential basis.
Wow.
Right? So it's, and like, it looks like this. Oh, hey, Willie, like, we go through the conversation. What's your source of income? You know, if you're working, I might ask you, is it full-time, part-time, or casual, right? But the reason why I'm asking that is so I know, like, if it's part-time, you're only working a certain amount of hours, you're only getting a certain amount of a week. Or if you're getting assistance from the government, you know, I might do a quick Google. I go, what kind of benefit? You might say job seeker. Hi, Google. You know, how much does someone on the job seeker get? And then after that, I might go, do you have any kids or dependents that you're financially responsible for, right?
Yeah.
So that gives me an idea of your situation.
Yeah, wow.
And then from there, like, you know, without intruding and asking you for all these documentation to justify the amount that you're requesting, I have a fair idea. Of, you know, of your affordability. And if you say, and then I'm based on that assessment, I go, oh, I think it's realistic that we do $25 a week. And if you come at me with the 120, I'll be like, man, come on, brother. No, like, please, can we, like, you know, tell me something. Don't tell me what I want to hear. Like, tell me what you can do. You know, and a lot of people are like, what? Like, what are you on about, man? Like, no, like, it's got to work for you. Like, because I'm totally coming from a good place, and at debt managers, we're trying to help you. We really are, you know.
Wow,
so
that's awesome. That's mean. That's quite different. It's a change in what I think I should be hearing.
Yeah.
And it's just a different approach. Yeah.
Well, we're trying to remove the stigma. You know, we're challenging the status quo, and, you know, full disclosure, we don't get it right all the time. Yeah. You know, like, we don't get it right all the time, but what I want to say is we turn up and we do our best and we go hard. You know, so and I've said that a lot over the past, but we don't get it right, and we do our best. You know, and we've got systems in place to make sure that, you know, we're doing that. So,
cool, man. That's real cool. What should people know about their rights when it comes to fixing that? Like, you can just communicate, right? So as far as your rights is concerned, like, I mean, it's more so around the contract that you've entered into. You know, so that dictates a lot of what you can do. Because that never changes, is that right?
Yeah, so
the original one?
Yes, yeah. So especially when it goes to, like, a PDL, right? So it's understanding what you got into.
What's a PD?
So purchase debt ledger.
Oh,
yeah. So remember, we got the DCA, and we got PDL with purchase debt ledger, which is where we fall into.
Right,
so if it comes in there, like, you know, understand what you agree to, you know. So and if you don't, like, you know, there's community organisations out there that you can approach, and you know, they can run you through it. But if you just communicate your circumstance, I think that's the best way forward. Yeah, that's the best way forward, you know? Yeah.
What are the kind of cool examples of people who have come out of debt?
Oh, man. There's, like, through our debt relief program, like, there's several. Like, you know, I had... so I'm part of the debt relief committee. Wow. So with every debt relief submission, it comes through to our committee, and we sort of assess why they're applying. I mean, you know, I had one from... I don't know if it's Kaitaia or Whangarei. They went and saw a financial mentor out there. They made a financial mentor reach out. And all she said to us was, hey, look, Chris, you know, this is a customer situation. And in terms of her finances, you know, rather than, you know, committing to $30 a week, can we maybe look at $5? After we assess her situation, we wrote off the $7,000 debt. Right? Dang. Yeah, man. And mate, like, this is what blew me away. Yeah. The financial mentor and the customer, they sent me a photo. She's like, she's blind, man. Wow. Like, but the financial mentor didn't mention that. Like, you know, so I almost got into tears when I saw the photo. You know, when I saw the photo. That's
awesome.
Yeah, man. And there's other bro. See me back on that one, and there's other ones related to sort of economic harm. You know, we have a good relationship with an organisation called Good Shepherd, you know, and they sort of specialise in the economic harm space. You know, so you know, we've had countless submissions from them where, you know, domestic violence has been involved, and you know, sometimes it's not recent. Sometimes it's from, you know, 10 years back, but it's impacted how they're moving today, and to be able to sort of give them that alleviate that pressure. Like, it's a good feeling, man. It's fulfilling, So that's a few examples, and man. So,
man, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then
so good.
There's countless through the debt relief program. I can go on and on about it.
Yeah.
There's so many different scenarios around that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and I'm part of the committee, which is cool.
Wow.
So I get to see it. Yeah.
Wow.
So
how good is that?
Yeah, man. So yeah.
Yeah, well done, man. It's awesome. I think it's really cool to see Pacifica in those positions.
Yeah, I agree.
I know when I started the podcast, people hadn't seen Pacific person talking about money before. And I think it's needed.
100%, and that's why I found it interesting that you because in a lot of ways you're putting yourself out there for a lot of scrutiny from our people, man.
Yeah, big time.
I don't know if you've had any since you started, but
not yet.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
man.
which is good.
Yeah, that's
which
good.
is good.
But you're
hopefully not.
Yeah. But I mean, if it happens, it happens.
It is part of it. Like, I think we have to be at the forefront of making things better. Like,
100%.
Our lives, the way we manage money, the way we manage, Samoan, but lovey. Church obligations. I think things can always be done better. We don't have to keep spinning on the same wheel, doing things over the same way we've been doing it for generations.
Yeah, you're right.
I think these are important conversations that will, if we can help one person, I've done. I've done my job.
I agree. And I feel the same way. If it's just one person, it's one person. It's that one household, and then what does that generational impact look like? So,
big time.
No, I'm with that.
Yeah. I remember we had Dave Letele on the first podcast last year.
And, nice.
And he goes, focus on helping one person.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, because you don't know the reach, the spread.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you're doing. Yeah. You focus about helping one person, and that's the magic.
Yeah. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
He's not wrong, man.
Yeah.
So, that's solid.
Cool, man. Let's talk about your own personal finances.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You've hung the phone up already. You're out of here. So, man, seeing, money management behaviours of different people in the world, how has that affected your view on how you manage money today? Yeah,
well, I mean, prior to getting into the industry, I didn't really know the impact of a default. I knew that it was bad.
On your credit check,
on your credit report, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know how bad it was, and what it looks like. So, So getting into the industry, I got to learn that if like with a credit report, so again, this is not my specialty, but what I learned was if you're behind with your payments, whether it's a credit card payment or whatever that's measured in the background, so there's a portfolio of you that's being created, so and I learned that if you are going to miss a payment, reach out. Call them, right? Because that's impacting your score at the back end, right? And if you're gonna,
we've actually got coming in soon. We've got Monica from Centrix.
Oh, nice!
So we're going to talk a bit about that.
Cool.
More.
We can get into that. But so I learned the impact of a default. So if you're gonna go get credit and there's a default on your credit report, there's a high chance that you might not get it. And then what happens there? If you're in desperate need, you're probably gonna go to a lender that you shouldn't go to. They might be charging you 50% interest. They might be charging you, 60% interest, or or you might reach out to the bro, who's doing that, and they can give you some money, and that's a whole nother conversation, So I learned the importance, all of that to say that I learned the importance of maintaining good credit. And I know we've been like harping on about it, but to maintain it, if you're not in a position to make payment, call. Because the last thing you want to do is let's say for example a funeral happens, and you haven't listened to dad and put something away for a rainy day, and you got to go get a loan. You want to get a loan from a reputable company that's going to look after you, rather than the bro or whoever it might be,
some personal random arrangement,
whatever that means, or whatever that looks like, but so I learned the importance of maintaining good credit, also saving. It's important. Like, it doesn't matter how much you put away, just put something away, even if it's $20, even if it's, and set it up so it's difficult for you to get that money.
Yes.
So if it's
send it like to another bank or something.
Yeah, that's 100%. Like send it to another bank. If you have a partner or a wife, set it up so that you can't do online transfer. If you want to withdraw the money,
that's good.
Two people both have to be there to sign it off, and then even after you sign it off, you want to set it up that so it's not released for another 10 days. So what happens there is it actually makes you think 2-3 times, right? So do I really need the money? Because if I go to touch the savings, I'm gonna need to take time off work. My wife's gonna need to take time off work, and then we're gonna make an appointment with the bank. And then even when we do get the appointment with the bank, they won't release the money for another 10 days. So the event is in 2 days' time. Sorry, mum. Sorry, whoever. Like, I can't chip in this round. But what about your savings? Yeah, about that. I can't touch it. I really can't. And if you have to, you're not lying. Because if you're explaining it to somebody, explaining the process, that's what it is.
True.
Yeah, it's not
that is the actual truth. I didn't make up.
This is how it's set up, man. Or whether it's whoever, this is how it's set up. And whether they choose to believe that, that's up to them. But you're not lying. You're just saying, you're just explaining a fact and the process. So that's another thing that I learned. Make it,
that's good.
So if you're gonna save, one save, like just a little bit of like whatever you can afford, and two, make it really, really hard for yourself to touch that money. Another thing that I learned is, you can. There's like KiwiSaver, and if you're looking at getting a mortgage, there's brokers.
Yes.
You can engage the brokers, right? And guys, fun fact, they don't get paid. You don't pay them.
They're free.
They're free. No. Like when I found that out quite some time ago, and then it's in the broker's best interest to get you the best deal.
Yeah, correct.
So why do all the hard work yourself?
Yep.
When you can get them to do it. Whether that's finding you the best KiwiSaver fund, whether that's finding you the best mortgage rate, or insurance, whatever the case may be, so, but again, there's a preconceived idea that a broker's got to, or in our community anyway, that you've got to pay them. No, you don't.
They charge a fee,
they work for you.
Yes.
And they work hard. Compared to maybe contacting a company they would typically go to first. They might not work as hard. So that's
because they might get heaps customers every day.
Every day. They're just coming through, ticking on, you're moving on. So there's sort of some things that I've learned, over the years.
In terms of helping our Pacifica people, what do you think and what have you seen are the educational ways of helping our people the best? Like one-on-ones, is it like sessions in person, or is it a mixture?
That's a good question. I think just looking back, a group setting is good to help the people, right? Okay. And the reason why I say that is what I've observed is they tend to hold themselves accountable, so they bring that mentality that they would have at church, like, I'm gonna drive this car, or I'm gonna do this, to that session. And so what happens there? What happens there is if I don't turn up, then the Fifitas are gonna be there, and then what happens is so in a roundabout way, they find that they hold themselves accountable to attend and do things, right? But it can backfire if they all, group up, let's not turn up, but you run that risk, but over the years, that's what I've seen. And then
that's really cool.
And then from there you can break it into a sort of like a one-on-one session, because then you can, with all due respect, if you can only help someone that wants help, and then once you've finished that group session, you sort of filter out who wants to help, and then you can focus your time there.
Yep.
And then from there, you can circle back to those who may have fallen off the wagon,
Yep.
and then like tap in with them and then get them going as well. I'm not saying completely leave them off the path. You're
Yep.
just going to come back because you're going to, your resources better allocated with this cohort or people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shots, of course.
No, thanks,
That's
Doc.
me.
Thanks
Thank
as
you.
well.
Thank you so much for coming on.
No,
man,
thanks,
the
Willie.
time has flown.
Oh, wow.
I've got one more question for you.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
What does wealth mean and look like to you?
Wealth means to be healthy. It means to be around to enjoy the fruits of your labor with your family, your loved ones, and yeah, that's what it means to me. Like there's no point, making all these changes, and for example, save and all that stuff when you can't enjoy it with the people that you love.
True.
So in order to do that, you got to look after yourself. And in turn, you want to look after your own household, make sure that they're solid before you start expanding to the wider community. Because they always look back to you as an example. And if the household is a little bit out of line, why should they implement the same strategy there in the wider community? So
True.
Yeah.
True. Love it. Love it.
Thank you, bro.
Shot, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks,
it's been
brother.
a blast.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, I'll put your details below.
Please.
Please reach out, because what I took from this is communicate.
100%.
Fight through the fear and communicate.
100%. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you, bro.
No, all good.